Welcome back to the Morning Movement Show. I'm your host, Sarah Joy Gaines, and I am now joined by Chrissy King, author of The Body Liberation Project. Give it up for Chrissy, everybody. Amazing. Chrissy, I am so happy you're here. And, I said this to you prior, but when I was thinking about guests for the show, you were one of the first people that came to mind because your book and your work of, as the book says, right, Body Liberation Project, helping folks understand racism and diet culture to cultivate joy and build collective freedom. It is everything that I stand for and that Joy Flow really aims to do from an embodied standpoint. So thank you for being here, first
Thank
and
you for
foremost.
having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, one more time. So before we dive into the book and how that came to be and how it's come to be since its release, I want to start at the very beginning and have you share with us, what's your first memory of movement?
Oh my gosh, my first memory of movement is like taking walks with my family. We used to do that all the time, and I love a hot girl walk now, so I credit that to when I was like young. We used to go on like walks after dinner, and it was just so much fun. It wasn't so much about like exercise or like, it was just like something we did after dinner as a family, and I just loved it. And every day still I'm a hot girl walking, so some things don't change.
Totally. I remember when I interviewed you, must have been like a year and a half ago for something else, and I asked you, what's your go-to like wellness tool that doesn't cost any money? And you said walks.
I love walks.
And oftentimes I will tell you, I've gone for little mental health hot girl walks, and I've thought of you.
Oh, I love that.
Because I never used to like really consider myself a walker. But thank you.
I feel like it clears your head. Like I get good ideas when I walk. It's chill. I don't know. I like it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so from walking post dinner to now,
Yeah.
I mean, I know you were a trainer at some point. Can you walk us through your journey of movement and ultimately how that led you to write the Body Liberation Project?
Yes. So walks with my family were probably the last time I was chill about exercise for a very long time. I got into movement, not so much because I cared about being strong or empowered. I got into movement because I wanted to be skinny.
Right.
And so I spent a lot of time in my late teens, early 20s, like over exercising, obsessing about calories, macros, how many hours I was spending in the gym. I eventually got into powerlifting, which actually was really cool. And powerlifting was really fun because it was actually the first time that I saw that my body could be used or it was like a tool, not just like something to shrink, but like something that could be empowered and it was useful and had utility. And growing up, I always had this like family running joke that I was like the weakling in my family. And I was like, that's cool because some people are weak, some people are strong, who cares? But then I started powerlifting and I was like, oh, strength is a skill just like any other skill, right? And so I went from being able to do like nothing, like not even, I remember my first personal training session, I hated it. It was 30 minutes. It was the worst 30 minutes of my life, I felt like. I couldn't do a push-up, walking lunges. I was like, I'm never coming back.
How old were you?
I was like probably like 21 or something, 22. So I was like, like right out of college. I was like, I'm never doing this again. But I paid for 12 sessions. I was like, I'm not gonna waste my money.
That's
like,
a big investment
right
off
the bat, because I was like, I'm getting skinny this year. Also, I thought skinny was not gonna be involved. I didn't think like strength training was gonna be involved in getting skinny. So because I didn't know.
Well, because lifting makes you bulky.
Yeah, I was like,
nerd.
what do you mean we were lifting weights? That's what I came here for. But then I really liked the feeling of getting strong. And so eventually that led me to powerlifting. I competed in powerlifting. Nationally, at my strongest, I was deadlifting 500 pounds, which I'm really proud of. I can't do that today, by the way.
What? 500 pounds?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my biggest deadlift. So I got really, really strong and I loved it, strength. And that's what got me into becoming a personal trainer. But at the same time, I was still, even when I was at my strongest and probably my leanest, like people were always complimenting me on my body, I was still hyper focused on getting smaller. Like it never felt like enough. And so really it was like I had this like I call my rock bottom moment because I was the strongest I'd ever been, I was the leanest I'd ever been, getting compliments from people about the way I looked, and I still was so miserable. I couldn't enjoy like social events, like going on a weekend trip where I couldn't control everything I ate. It was like my worst nightmare. And so I think when I got to that point, I went on a weekend trip with my family. My ex-husband, my husband at the time, divorced now, and he like I packed everything for the entire weekend because I did not want to like mess up my macros, and I was with his extended family. And so we went to like this water park one day, and then we were like breaking for lunch, and I was eating in the car because I had packed this sad meal. It was like a wrap that had been sitting in a cooler all day. So sad. And so everybody was going
lightly cold still,
like it was it was like cold, the lettuce was wilted. It was so sad. And so everyone in the restaurant went inside to eat, and they were like, why is she staying in the car? And my ex at the time is really considerate. He's like, oh, she's just, she wants to be healthy, so she brought her own food. And then they asked the restaurant if I could bring my food in, which the restaurant was like, sure. But then it took me like 5 minutes to eat it. And then I just sat there watching everyone like order whatever they wanted. The food smelled good. It was like fresh. It was like it smelled so delicious. And in that moment, I was like, wow, I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing this, or I'm going to heal my relationship with body image because I'm really young still. Like, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. And so that's what really started me down the journey of like healing my relationship with my body image.
Wow. Yeah. It's so many pieces of your story are so resonant, both, I mean, to me, and I'm sure, I mean, anybody, head nods in the audience, right? Like, this will let me plan everything that I can to circle around controlling what I eat so I could then get this body that I'm saying is the thing that is going to give me everything I will ever want and dream of. And I just, this is why I wanted to have you on the show, because it's just so resonant and so important. And, I also resonate too with this aspect of first finding fitness originally with this intention of, well, let me get as small as I can. But then it also having these really beautiful side effects, like, oh my gosh, I'm strong physically, and that strength physically transcends into confidence and mental strength. And so, shadows and light on either side. And then that aha moment. So walk us through what happened next, because you have that moment, but this is my experience at least, is like all the structures in your life are still like supporting that other way of living. So what came next?
Yeah, it actually came in like really small changes, right? Like I'm like, okay, obviously I'm gonna have to change something. This isn't working. So the first thing I did was like, I'm going to stop tracking all of my macros, right? Which sounds like a big step, but when you've been tracking your macros for years, you can still kind of mentally
it just happens automatically.
You just know what you're eating, right? But so I was like, okay, well, I'm still kind of tracking, but I'm not tracking. But it was the small things like, oh, what if I just put like regular creamer instead of sugar-free creamer in my coffee, which sounds so small, but like to me that felt like a really big deal at the time. And I was like, okay, well, I did that, and like I'm okay. And like, what if I didn't work out 7 days a week? What if I did 6 days a week? And what if I didn't work out for 3 hours? What if I just stayed for 2, right? And so it's like these little small changes, and every time I did it, I was like, okay, I'm still okay. And also, like, I was reading a lot of books. I remember the first book I read is The Body Is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor, which is still one of my favorite books to this day, and it really helped me start to think about my body in a different way. And like Sonia really introduced me to the idea of like how race and gender and ability status like factor into the ways that we feel about our bodies. And so I think it was, and then following different people online, and I even like eventually changed my gym because I was in the gym and the culture was so much, I learned my behavior a lot from that gym that I was in. And so I even had to like kind of break away from that for a little bit, and slowly started making these changes and realizing that every step of the way I made this small change, I'm still okay. I'm still okay. And then eventually, as naturally my body also changed, and I'm like, okay, I'm still all right. I'm fine. And I think the thing too, with body image is like, I talk about this in the book, is body image is not this thing that we achieve one day, or body liberation. It's not this thing that we achieve one day and then we never have negative feelings about our body ever again. That's unrealistic. And I think that if we expect that from ourselves, we'll always be disappointed. So I think for me, it was also this real understanding of like when I woke up and I wasn't feeling that great, or I'm feeling disappointed about things, I also always go back to the things I had to do to maintain the smallest version of myself and how miserable that was. And so that also helped to keep me grounded along the way.
Totally. And, this sense of, I know we talked about this a little bit prior when we chatted last time, but, of how much energy it takes to maintain the lifestyle, which is upholding this idea of wanting to get the body to be as small as it can. and then all that is lost in the process. And so I'm curious if you could just speak to a little bit of that, of just that energy.
Absolutely. I always say, like, when you're hyper focused on your body, like, it literally is all consuming, right? Like, what am I eating today? What are my macros? When am I going to work out? I used to, like, people in my life knew I was not skipping my workout to do something, right? So, like, it was going to be centered around those things. I would take doctor's appointments at work if I had to work out during the day because I had a social event at night. Like, everything in my entire life was focused around this, and it was all consuming. And I don't think I realized at the time, like, how much of my energy was being drained. I didn't really have the energy to think about anything else or do anything else. And so when I moved towards body liberation and I'm like, oh wow, I have all this energy free, I was like, wow, what do I actually want in my life? What do I want to create? Like, what kind of life do I actually want for myself?
Right.
And I don't think this will be everybody's story, but it is my story, that I think that when I really freed myself from my body image issues and worked towards body liberation, like, I really started to, like, evaluate every area of my life. And my life is completely different. I quit my corporate job. I got divorced. I moved across the country. And I'm not saying that those things are going to happen, but that was my story. That was my story. But what I realized is that, like, I was so hyper focused on my body because that felt like the easiest thing to control instead of, like, addressing the real issues that I was having that felt too big to address at the time.
Totally.
And body image is like the low hanging fruit, right? When everything feels out of control, I know I can control this aspect of me.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it also makes sense to me that on the other side of this awakening, there's this recognition of, okay, wait, what do I actually want?
Yeah.
Because the false promise of the perfect body is all rooted in this belief that it will be, like, pleasing to somebody. I don't know who that person is or what that thing is, but so, like, detaching from that, it's, wait, actually, hold on, what about me?
What do I want?
Right.
And I think the other thing is too, is like, one of the biggest lies of diet culture is that, like, you're going to be so happy once you get to this quote unquote dream body, right?
Right.
And what you realize is, like, at least for me, is that when I got to that quote unquote dream body, I still wasn't satisfied. I still wasn't happy. It was still always something else that I needed to change. And so it's like, there is no happily ever after on the other side of weight loss. Like, the happily ever after is on our own personal liberation and figuring out what it is that we want for ourselves, what kind of life we want to cultivate. It's not, the magic is not in weight loss or shrinking the body. Yeah.
Yeah. Moment to let that to let that settle in. Well, so the Body Liberation Project, March, right, is when it was released. So 2 years.
It's
yeah,
2 years, which is wild.
I feel like we should sing a happy birthday.
I know. I can't believe it's been 2 years.
And that was the first time I actually met you.
Yes.
The copy that I have here is actually signed by you at the Strand bookstore, because this was the first time, I mean, that I came upon your book and your work, and I was just so excited to see it come to life. And so 2 years later, I mean, what has the evolution been of even, like, the book being out in the world and how it's been received? Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, first off, I can't believe it's been 2 years. It doesn't feel like it. It's Friday, it's 2 years, and I was like, that is so wild. Like, time really goes fast.
Sure does.
But first off, publishing a book is such a cool thing. Like, I'm always really transparent about that. Like, walking into a bookstore and seeing a book that you wrote, like, I never get tired of it. It's still surreal every single time. I'm like, wow, I wrote that. I was in the library one day just for, like, an event, and my book was, like, right there. I'm like, wow, my book's in the library. That's wild. I wrote that.
Cool.
So it's really, really cool.
So
and I think it's such a vulnerable thing to release a book into the world, right? Like, you put so much effort and energy into it, and, you know, traditional publishing is a really long process. It's like 18 to 24 months that you're working on the book before it comes out. So it's like,
and a pre-process, like, even pre-publication, and all of that.
It's so much. So by the time it comes out, you've, like, I don't. It's like you birthed something. You're like, this is my baby. It's out in the world now. And so I think one of the coolest things for me about the process has just been, like, you know, people sending me messages or DMs just telling me, like, how much the book has really impacted them. And I think that's what I always wanted the book to do. I wanted it to be a book that was really helpful for people in a meaningful way. And then, you know, there's always the people who don't like the book, which I always say, don't read the reviews on anything, because who cares? And you know what? It's true, though, because, like, no matter who you are, you can be the best author in the world, someone's going to think your work is trash, right?
Totally.
So I made the mistake of reading reviews one time, and, like, all of them were, like, overwhelmingly positive, but there was, like, 2 that were terrible. And I was like hyper fixating on those 2
Sure.
reviews. I'm like, maybe I should never write anything again. And then people were like, okay, calm down, simmer down. But then what I did to make myself better is I went to someone's Goodreads of a book that I think is like, one of the greatest works of art. And they had the same experience. I'm like, okay, this is the same for everyone.
Right.
But yeah, just being able to have something evergreen that I think people will be able to benefit from. And I do remember when I was writing in like 2021, and I think we were like body positivity and like that those things felt like they're really soaring, right? And like inclusivity, it was like all the buzz. And I was like, oh my gosh, people aren't gonna need this book, but like I'm still gonna write it. But I was like, I think people figured it out. And little did I know.
You got there.
Little did I know in 2025, it'd be like the pendulum has swung in the opposite direction.
Completely.
And so I'm like, the work needs to be here more than ever.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Some snaps for that because it's, it's so entrenched in our culture and just in our own, like, it's just like in the roots, you know what I mean? And so like the unrooting, the de-rooting, I'm like, what is the plant phrase for that? Takes so much, and it happens individually within each of us, but then to see it sustained around us, I mean, work.
Yeah, it's so much. And I've been talking about recently about how I really believe that like this reemergence of diet culture, this reemergence of like thinness culture, coalescing with the same time as like reproductive rights being questioned. I think all of these things, I don't think it's coincidental, right? Like I think, which I talk about in the book, is like this idea of an ideal body and what it's supposed to be is very much rooted in racism and white supremacy, and same as like our reproductive rights, and right? And so like this idea that should be our focus is intentional, because again, when we are focused on those things, we don't have the energy to think about the things that really matter. Right. And so it's like, yes, bring the people back to focusing on their bodies, right? Because then they don't have the energy to fight against all these other systems of oppression.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then it also is distracting us from how powerful our bodies are.
Absolutely.
Like the essence of what we're doing when we're doing Joy Flow is using movement, using breath to help shift the energy of your body, move through stressful states, and ultimately come back to like this incredible vessel that is so wise. But we haven't been taught that because we've been focused on what it looks like.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
So 2 years post Body Liberation Project, 2 years from now, what do you hope the world is seeing, doing, believing, feeling?
I mean, I'm still hoping for the same things in the book. I mean, I think that the thing about diet culture and the hyperfixation on women's bodies is that like you said, it's so deeply entrenched in our society. I've been talking and thinking a lot about this recently as it pertains to Lizzo even, right? Because her body, no matter what it looks like, has always been the topic of conversation. When she was in a larger body, people were in her comments talking trash about her body. Now she has lost weight and people have this, her body she never gets to just exist and do her art, right? And it's like, no matter what she's doing, the conversation always comes back to what she looks like. And so I just think that's so evident of how much work we still have to do. Because really, when I think about body liberation, it's not like what your body looks like. It's like, have I learned and can I learn to love and appreciate my body in every iteration, because our bodies are always changing and they always will be changing. That's the one thing that we are guaranteed in this life. So that's the work, not like, is it supposed to look this way or is it supposed to look that way? And also the work is that we're not thinking about what other people's bodies look like.
Right.
And that's the part that I think collectively we really have to work on. It's like the work is individual and then the work is collective, so that no matter what you exist, however you look in this world, you are able to exist free of harm, free of discrimination, and just to be. And so I think that I hope for us in 2 years to still be like working through so many of these things. I talk constantly about like, it really isn't our business what other people's bodies look like. It's not our business to comment on people's bodies positively or negatively, whatever we think that is. Like really just mind our own bodies, right? And I hope that's what we are working towards collectively, because it's hard to exist in the world in a body, and the more marginalized you are, the more difficult it is to exist. And so I think we just all have a lot of work to do, myself included. And like, I think the learning never ends. Like, again, because it's so deeply entrenched in society and we're constantly getting these messages, like the work is always done. Is never done. I always say it's like unpeeling layers of an onion, right? There is always more to unlearn. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for just your presence, your wisdom, your work, both in the book and beyond. Where can folks connect with you?
Absolutely. My website is chrissyking.com, on all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, all the things. It's I am Chrissy King. And I also have a Substack called The Liberation Collective.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Fabulous.
having me.
Thank you. And don't go anywhere yet
Yes.
because we want to ask the audience
Okay, yeah.
for one question.
Oh my God, this conversation is absolutely mind-blowing, and I think I'm so grateful because today I'm a Latina woman, and I consider to be a big woman, and I feel like I have this negative self-talk about my body constantly. And even today, I think like, oh my God, in order for me to fulfill my dreams, I have to look skinny because I've been told that I need to look skinny, and I struggle that all the time with my tias, and like you said that we all comparing, like as Latina woman, I cannot talk for the rest. I talk for my culture, and it's constantly like you have to look skinny and you have to be more skinny, and that has affected me in a sense that nowadays I'm scared to have sex because it's like how I'm gonna open my body because I'm too self-aware of that. And I would love to hear, Chrissy, if you want to share. You just said that it was blocking other areas of your life. And I know we kind of touched a little bit on maybe, this administration or politics or whatever, life crisis, but how was it for you? Like, what was in that moment? What were the areas that where you're not really taking focus instead of just giving all the energy on this silly, stupid, but amazing thing that is called the body,
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thank you for sharing all of that about yourself. I think your story relates to so many of us because, it's not even just when we talked about societal pressure. It's like the people in our lives, like our own family members, our friends. Like it runs really deep. But when I think about like what are the things that actually changed for me, like number one, I would not be living in New York City doing any things I'm doing right now if it wasn't for me healing my relationship with my body image. So I moved to New York, it'll be 6 years this fall. I was living in Wisconsin, I was working my corporate job every day. Like I had been at that job since I graduated from college. I despised going to that place every single day, and I just dreamed about doing something different. But like, again, I did not have the energy to think about what that different thing was, what I really wanted to be doing, where I wanted to be living. Like it had never crossed my mind that I could just do something different. I could just change. I didn't have to be living here. I could, explore something different. And so again, when I moved towards body liberation, I started writing again. And like writing a book is really cool, but like also when I was a kid, like I told people that's what I was going to do when I was older. I was going to write books. And like every day, I was homeschooled, by the way, so I was in 3rd grade, which is very random. But because of that, I would like finish school at like 11 a.m. because I do all my work, and I would go to the library because I wanted to get books, I wanted to read, and I wanted to write. I write these stories, but then whatever, life. I wasn't thinking about that. So once I started working towards body liberation, I was training and coaching, and then there came a point where I started writing about my own dirty body image. I started writing about the intersection of like racism and diet culture, racism and the wellness industry. This is prior to 2020, before it was like cool thing to talk about, and I just started writing in my own personal blog again and just sharing authentically, and that literally led me to freelancing for like Self and Women's Health and Shape because people were just sharing my work that I was writing in my blog, and sharing it. And so I really say that like body liberation really changed the trajectory of my whole career, my whole life. And then in 2020, I wrote an article for Shape magazine that kind of went viral. I got to go on the Today Show and talk about it. That eventually led to me writing a book. I got to share about body liberation in Times Square. Like all these things that I just know I would have never done if I hadn't set myself really free to just exist in my body and to free up that mental energy to do the things that I wanted to do. And so again, like I can't promise anybody that that's gonna be the thing for them, but I can promise you though that once you move towards liberation, it does free up mental energy, and that energy can be used to create whatever it is that you want to create, or just to exist and be able to like enjoy life without having to be like hyper focused on the way you look all the time. And I talk in my book even kind of what you're speaking to about like dating. in the body that I exist in now, right? Like I've been with the same partner since my ex-husband, I was with him 19 to 33, right? So that was my whole like formative years. And then to be in this different body and to be dating and to like, you know, experience the world differently. It's not easy, but it's also so worth it, because if someone does not appreciate the way I look, like I don't know what to tell you, because again, our bodies are going to change, whether it's because of chronic illness or just aging or any of myriad of things that can happen. Like your body's going to change. So if you can't love me in every iteration, you do not deserve any of me at any time, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
And what I really hear as kind of like the initiation of body liberation is just like a self-recognition.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the thing I always say is like, I truly believe that my relationship with myself, or all of us really, our most important relationship that we have in life is the one we have with ourselves, because we are with ourselves every moment of every day. And if I can treat my friends and my loved ones and my partners with compassion and kindness and grace, I am deserving of compassion, kindness, and grace. And so it's really, I would say, like, falling in love with yourself is the most beautiful love story of all time. And I mean that wholeheartedly, because at the end of the day, we are the person that we get to be with, and we are deserving of being cherished and nourished and loved and doted on and treated compassionately and kindly and all the things.
Exactly.
Yeah, all the things.
Exactly. It's the hug.
The hug,
Remember
yeah,
the hug?
it's the hug.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Give it up one more time, everybody.
Thank
Chrissy
you.
King. So grateful to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you to our amazing audience. Here we are at Zeem Studios here in Times Square. Thanks for tuning in to The Morning Movement Show. We'll see you next week. We'll have Emily Sherto, founder of Journaling Classes. Have a great week. Bye, y'all.